Today we're going to be looking at the Mathematics A Practice Paper 6F Solutions by Miss Hayden Higgins. Okay, so you're given a formula sheet, the area of a trapezium, the volume of a prism, and the volume of a cylinder, as well as the curved surface area of the cylinder. So here we go. Question 1. The diagram shows a shape drawn on a centimetre grid. So we know that each box has a length and a width of 1 centimetre. So the area of each box is 1 centimetre squared. So to find the area of the shape, all we need to do is count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the area of the shape is 9 centimetres squared. To find the perimeter of the shape, what we want to do is find the length around the outside. So if we start here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we know that the perimeter, the length around the outside, is 20 centimetres. It says on the grid, draw the line of symmetry of the shape. So if I was to fold this shape in half, where would my line of symmetry be? So that it would be exactly the same on both sides. So that is going to be exactly in the middle of this line here. Because if I had a piece of paper, and this was on a piece of paper, and I folded this in half, it would be exactly symmetrical on both sides. So you could even start with a folded piece of paper and just cut out this length, and then when you opened it, this shape, when you opened it, you'd have the full shape. Here is a different shape. On this shape, mark an obtuse angle. Label your angle O. Now, an obtuse angle is an angle between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. Now, we know a right angle, 90 degrees, looks like this. We know 180 degrees is on a straight line. So we're looking for an angle that is in between 90 and 180. So we're looking for any angle that could be here. For example, this angle would be between 90 and 180. So we can see here, we have this angle and it says label your angle O. Perfect. Question 2. Write down the number that is exactly halfway between 8.6 and 8.7. So if we have 8.6 and 8.7, directly in between is 8.65. Part B, write down the number on the scale marked with an arrow. So we have 7.2 and 7.3. So let's check if we go across. Is this 7.21, 7.22, 7.23, 7.24, 7.25, 7.26, 7.27, 7.28, 7.29, 7.3. Yes, that did work. So we know the answer is 7.27. On the scale, mark with an arrow the number 7.235. Now we can see the scale is the same as the one above, so we know that 7.23, 7.21, 7.22, 7.23 is here. 7.24 is here. So 7.235 will be in the middle. Here we go. Write 7.235 to the nearest whole number. So we're wondering, is it closer to 7 or closer to 8? Now 7.2 is closer to 7, so to the nearest whole number is 7. Question 3. The diagram shows a 5-sided polygon, ABCDE, drawn on a centimetre grid. Write down the coordinates of the point A. So for the point A, we know we start with our x-axis, so we've gone across 4 and up 5. So our coordinate is 4, 5. We always do our x coordinate first and then our y coordinate. It then says write down the coordinates of point C. So again, on our x axis, if we go across, it's -4. Then when we go up to C, we go up 1. So we have -4, 1. Write down the mathematical name for a 5-sided polygon. Now, if it has 5 sides, we call this a pentagon. Measure the length of the line AB. Give your answer in centimetres correct to 1 decimal place. So when I get my ruler and I need to measure the line AB, correct to 1 decimal place, so 1, 2, 3, 4.2 centimetres. Now, using this software that I've got, I'm not sure if you can see my ruler when I'm recording, but I've just measured it and then rounded it to the nearest centimetre. It then says measure the size of the angle marked X. So I need to get a protractor. So let's just find the protractor. So here we go. So here's my protractor and I want to measure that angle X. I'm going to make sure it's lined up. So you can see that my dot is lined up on A. Okay, this line is completely lined up. And if I go across, my angle finishes here, which is this line. And if we go up, this is 40 degrees because we start from 0 and go across. We have 40 degrees. Now I'm just going to move this protractor out the way. So make sure when we're starting at 0 and then we go across. Question 4. Here is a sequence of patterns made from sticks. Pattern number 1 has 4 sticks. Pattern number 2 has 7 sticks. Pattern number 3 has 10 sticks. What does pattern number 4 have? Well, if we look, each time we're actually adding 3 sticks. And if we look at the pattern, 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. So 10 plus 3 is 13. Explain how you worked out your answer. So each time the sequence adds 3. How many sticks are needed to make pattern number 12? Well, if I think about pattern number 12, we were already at 4. Now I can continue to add 3. So we know at 4 we have 13. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're going to get 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31, 34, 37. 37 is the answer. There is another way we can do this, and we can do this by finding the nth term. So we know our pattern is 4, 7, 10, 13. We know the difference is 3 each time. So it actually follows the 3 times table. So we have 3n. And then from 3, how do we get to 4? Because if I had my n was 1, I'd get 3, but I need to get to 4. So that means I need to add 1. So my nth term is 3n plus 1. So if I could see if that works for 12. So if I want the 12th pattern, my n is 12. So 3 lots of 12 plus 1. I'm going to get 36 plus 1, which is 37. Work out the pattern number of the pattern made from exactly 67 sticks. Now I've just got this formula 3n plus 1. That's going to equal 67. So if I take away 1 from both sides, I'm left with 3n equals 66. If I want to find 1n, I need to divide both sides by 3. So I get n equals 22. So it's the 22nd pattern number. Question 5. Complete the following sentences by writing a sensible metric unit on each of the dotted lines. The length of a pencil is 14 centimetres. Because it couldn't be 14 metres. 14 centimetres is more likely. The weight of a television set is 16 kilograms. Because TVs are quite heavy, aren't they? The area of a classroom floor is 60 meters squared. When we're talking about area, we need to make sure our units are squared. Roberta has a jug containing 2 litres of juice. She pours 150 millilitres of juice from the jug into each of 3 glasses. Work out the amount of juice still in the jug. Okay, so I have a huge jug and it has 2 litres. And then I have 3 glasses. I always like to draw pictures, I think it's easier. And each glass has 150 millilitres. So first of all, I've noticed that I have 2 different units. I've got litres and millilitres. Now, 2 litres, 1 litre is 1,000 millilitres. So that means 2 litres is 2,000 millilitres. So actually, I have 2,000 millilitres in my jug, and I'm going to pour out 150, 150, 150. 3 lots of 150. The total I'm pouring out is 450 ml in the 3 glasses. So if I have my jug of 2,000, I'm going to take away the 450 for each glass, and I'm going to be left with 1,550 millilitres. Now you can see in the question it hasn't given us units, so I could leave that as 1,550 millilitres. Write down a prime number between 20 and 40. Now we know a prime number has exactly 2 factors, 1 and itself. For example, the number 3. The only way to make number 3 by multiplying is 1 times 3 or 3 times 1. Again, they mean the same thing, but only one in itself. So a prime number between 20 and 40, it's always best to start with odd numbers because we know the only even prime number is 2, and 2 is not between 20 and 40. So if we have a look, we have 21, 23, 25, 27, 29. Let's just start with that. Now 21, the factors of 21, now I can actually make 21 by using 7 times 3, so that is not prime. 23 is only divisible by 1 in itself, so my factors are only 1 and 23, so this is prime. So 23 would be my answer. Now there are a few other answers. For example, 25, I could also make 25 using 5 squared, so its factors are 1, 5 and 25. It has more than 2 factors, it's not prime. 27, again, I can make that using 9 and 3, as well as 1 and 27, that's not prime. 29, though, is prime. I can only make 29 by using 1 and 29. So you could have even put 29. And there are some other prime numbers between 30 and 40 for you to find out. It then says that work out the cube of 7. So we want to work out the cube of 7. We want 7 cubed. And this means 7 multiplied by 7 multiplied by 7. So we're going to get 49 multiplied by 7, which is 343. Question 7. Here are the distances cycled in kilometres on the first 6 days of the 2015 Tour de France cycle race. Work out the range of these differences. Now the range is the biggest value minus the smallest value. Our biggest value is 224 and our smallest value is 14. When we take those away, we're going to be left with 210. Work out the median distance. So this is in the middle once ordered. So I'm going to start by putting these in order. So we're going to have 14, 160, 166, 190, 192, 224. So now to find the middle, I'm going to start at the smallest and the biggest and cross off my pairs. So 14 and 224 are one pair, 160 and 192 are another pair, and then I'm left with 106 and 190. So my middle number is exactly in the middle between 190 and 166. So I can add the two numbers together and divide them by 2 to find out exactly what is in the middle. So 190 plus 166 divided by 2 is 178. So 178 is the median distance. Michael says the median is a better average to use for these 6 distances than the mean. Explain why Michael is right. Now, the reason why Michael is right is because if we were to use the mean and we were to add them all up and divide them by how many they are, which is 6, well, our answer wouldn't be quite accurate because you can see on the first day we have 14. Now, that is a lot lower than all of our other answers, okay? And that is because 14 is an outlier and it wouldn't represent the data fairly. So we could write because the number 14 is an outlier and would not give a fair representation of the data. Okay. Question 8. You can use this graph to change between pounds and Hong Kong dollars. Change 120 Hong Kong dollars to pounds. So 120, I'm going to go across. Oh, sorry. My ruler moved. It's really important to be accurate with when we're doing this. Okay, so we go across and then we are going to go down. Okay, so we can see we have 8. This one would be 9. And if we have a look, there's then 5 squares to get to 10. So it's going up in 0.2. So it's then got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 9.80 pounds. When we're dealing with money, we always have 2 decimal places. It then says change 6 Hong Kong dollars. Sorry, £6 into Hong Kong dollars. So again, I'm going to start at the 6. I'm going to draw my nice straight line up until I reach my line. I'm then going to go across and then I'm going to read the axes. So we can see this time we're going up in 10. So at the top, each square is actually 2. So I've got 60, 72. It then says change 1,000 Hong Kong dollars into pounds. But there isn't 1,000 on the scale. But what I do know is that I can make the number 1,000 by doing 100 times 10. So I can work out how much 100 Hong Kong dollars is into pounds and then multiply it by 10 because they are directly in proportion. So I go over to my 100 and I go across and I make sure that I'm really accurate, and you keep these lines on there when you're doing the exam. So that you've shown all your method. And down. And I can see this is in fact 8.2. So 100 is 8.2, so I need to do 8.2 multiplied by 10, which is in fact £82. Question 9. Alison buys 6 plants. Each plant costs £2.96. She pays with a £20 note. Work out how much change she should get. Well, I need to find the total of how many plants. If she bought 6, I'm going to do 6.2, 6 multiplied 2.96, which is 17.76. She pays with a £20 note. So to find the change, I need to do 20 minus 17.76. And I'm going to get £2.24. Question 10. Write 23% as a fraction. Now, 23%, we know percentage is normally out of 100, so we can write 23 over 100. Now, we can't simplify this because we already know from earlier that 23 is prime. So there are no common factors in 23 and 100 where we could simplify. Here are 5 numbers. Write these numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest. What I like to do is convert them all to decimal first, or percentage. So let's start. 5 over 9. If you're not sure what that is, you can do 5 divided by 9 into your calculator and press SD. So 5 over 9 is 0.55 recurring. 8 over 15 is 0.5. 3, and the 3 is recurring. 61%, 0.61, and 3 over 5 is 0.6. Now, our smallest number here is 0.53 recurring, which is our 8 over 15. So I'm going to convert it back, 8 over 15. Our next smallest is 0.55, which is our 5 over 9. We then have 0.59. I'm going to make sure when I write it, I'm writing it back in the original form. We then have 0.6, which is 3 over 5. And we then have 61%. Sorry, I forgot to mention 61%. To find the decimal, you need to divide by 100. Question 11. 240 people were asked why they had to come to Dubai. The pie chart gives information about their answers. They were visiting friends, visiting relatives, business, or holiday. How many of these people had come to Dubai on business? Well, the business is 105 degrees out of a total of 360. And then we're going to multiply that by how many people were asked in the survey, which is 240. So 105 divided by 360 times 240 is going to give me 70 people. Tavish asked 300 people at an airport in Sri Lanka why they had come to Sri Lanka. He's going to draw a pie chart for his results. 120 of the 300 people said they had come to Sri Lanka for a holiday. Tavish draws a sector on his pie chart for this information. Work out the size of the angle. Well, if we had 120 out of 300 people and we wanted to find out the degrees, we'd multiply that by 360 because there are 360 degrees within the circle. So 120 divided by 300 times 360 is 144 degrees. Question 12. A is the point with the coordinates 4, 11. So if I was to imagine this, I'd get 4 and 11. Okay, so 4, 11. And B is the point with the coordinates 8, 3. So I'd go across 8, 8, 3. What I want to know is work out the midpoint of AB. So I want to find out the middle of the line. Now, there's two ways you could do this. You could say, what is in between 4 and 8? We know that's 6. And what is in between 11 and 3? Which we know is 7. Another way you could do this is you could do 4 plus 8 divided by 2, which gives you 6, and 11 plus 3 divided by 2, which gives you 7. Question 13. A plane flew 8,740 kilometres from Nairobi to Hong Kong. The flight time was 13 hours 15 minutes. Work out the average speed of the plane. Give your answer in kilometres per hour, correct to the nearest whole number. So we know that speed equals distance over time. Now, when we're looking, we have 13 hours 15 minutes, and it wants it in kilometres per hour. So 13 hours and 15 minutes. We know that minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour is 60 minutes. So we have 13 and 15 over 60. We also know that 15 minutes is also a quarter of an hour, and a quarter is 0.25. 15 over 60 is also 0.25, so 13.25 hours. Now our units are correct, we can continue with the question. Our distance is 8,740 divided by our time, which is 13.25 hours. So we're going to put that into the calculator. 8,740 divided by 13.25. I'm going to get 659.6226. This is kilometres per hour. So give your answer in kilometres per hour correct to the nearest whole number. To the nearest whole number would be to the nearest unit, which is 659. So we look at the number next to it, which is 5 or more. So we're going to round this to 660 kilometres per hour. Question 14. There are 80 counters in the bag. The counters are either blue or red. Okay, so I've got 80 counters. I've got blue or red. The ratio of the number of red counters to blue counters is 1 to 3. So what they've done is they've said red counters is 3, blue counters is 1. So there's a total of 4 parts altogether. So 4 parts equals 80. To find 1 part, I need to divide both sides by 4. 80 divided by 4 is 20. So blue is 20, and 3 parts for red is 60. 3 times 20 is 60. Michael takes 15% of the red counters out the bag. So to work out 15% of 60, I know that 10% is 6 by dividing by 10. 5% is half of 6, which is 3. So 15% is 9. So he takes away 9 counters. So I'm now left with 51. And Alison takes away 1/5 of the blue counters out the bag. So if I take 1/5, so 1/5 of 20 is in fact 4. 20 minus 4 is 16. So there's 16 blue left. How many counters are now in the bag? Well, 51 plus 16 is 77 counters are left in the bag. Question 15. Here is a biased 5-sided spinner. When the spinner is spun, it can land on red, orange, yellow, green, or blue. The probabilities that it lands on red, orange, and yellow are given in the table. The probability that the spinner lands on green is the same as the probability that it lands on blue. Okay, so we know that these two are the same. I could call them both X. So we know that probabilities add to 1. So 0.4 plus 0.2 plus 0.1 plus X, because they are unknowns, equal 1. So 0.7 plus x is 2x equals 1. If I take away 0.7 from both sides, I'm left with 2x equals 0.3. To find out what x is, I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get 0.15. 0.15 is the probability that it will land on green, as our green is x. I could also double check that all of these add up to 1, which they do. So there's my 1. Question 16, work out the value of, and we have to type this in the calculator exactly how it looks. So 17.7 times 5.8 divided by the square root of 3.4. Please make sure you press next, the arrow that faces the right, plus 5.3, so that what you do not want to have is that line going across on the whole denominator, okay? The square root is only for the 3.4, and then your plus 5.3 needs to be separated. Press equals, and I have 14.37028.405. It just wants you to write down all the figures on your calculator display. Nice and simple. Question 18. A lion is 224 centimetres long. Simon makes a scale model of the lion. He uses the scale 1 to 8. Work out the length of the scale model. So that means for every 8 centimetres of how long the lion really is, he's going to scale it back to 1. So I'm going to do 224 and divide that by 8. So 224 divided by 8 is 28 centimetres. In 2010, there were 411 lions, and in 2015, there were 523. Work out the percentage increase in the number of lions in India. So we went from 411 to 523. So my difference, so 523 minus 411 is 112. 112 divided by my original amount, which is 411. And then I'm going to multiply it by 100 to get the percentage. So what I've done is I've got the difference divided by the original amount multiplied by 100 divided by 411 times 100 is 27.25%. It then wants us to round to one decimal place, so I want one decimal place. The 5 is 5 or more, so I need to round that up, so 27.3%. Question 18. Show that 5 and 2/3 minus 3 and 4/5 is 1 and 13/15. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my mixed fractions to top-heavy fractions, so 5 and 2/3. Well, in 5 whole ones, we have 15/3. 5 whole ones is 15/3, plus 2/3 is 17/3. Now, I know some of you know that you could just do 5 times 3 is 15, plus the numerator, which is 2, to get our 17/3. Any method is completely fine as long as you understand the principle. So then we have 3 whole ones and 4/5. 3 whole ones is 15/5, plus 4/5 is 19/5. So now I have 17/3 minus 19/5. Now, 17/3 minus 19/5, I cannot add or subtract fractions if they do not have a common denominator. Now, 3 and 5, the lowest common multiple is 15. So I'm going to convert my 17/3 into 15ths, and the same for my 19/5 into 15ths, so they have a common denominator. 3 times 5 is 15, 17 times 5 is 85. 5 times 3 is 15, and whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator so that these are equivalent fractions. And 19 times 3 is 57. Now I have 85 over 15, because that was originally my 5 2/3, minus 57 over 15, which was originally my 3 4/5. But again, this is exactly the same. We've just made them equivalent. Now when they have the same denominator, I can take them away. So 85 minus 57 is 28. So I have 28 over 15. Now 15 goes into 28 one time, remainder 13. So that equals 1 13/15, which is exactly what we have shown. Question 19. The frequency table shows information about the distances 60 office workers travel to work each day. So we know our total frequency is 60. Work out an estimate for the mean. Now, when we have a frequency table with intervals, we need to find the midpoint. So the midpoint of each interval between 0 and 10 is 5, 10 and 20, 15, 20 and 30, 25, 30 and 40, 35, 40 and 50, 45. Now I've found the midpoint, I can multiply the midpoint by the frequency. So I've got 5, which is my midpoint for the first one, times 5. I've got 15 times 12. I've got 25 times 17, 35 times 20, 45 times 6. I'm going to work them all out, add them all up, and then I need to divide by how many I have in total, which in our case is our total frequency, so we're going to divide it by 60. So 5 times 5 is 25, 15 times 12, 180, 25 times 17, 425, 35 times 20, 700, 45 times 6, 270. If I add them all up, I'm going to get a total value of 1600. Now I have my total value, so 1600 divided by 60 is 80 over 3, which is equivalent to 26.666 recurring. And give your answer to one decimal place. So I want one decimal place. The number beside it is 5 or more. So I'm going to round up 26.7 kilometres. Question 20. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals minus 2x plus 4. Now, we could do this a few different ways. We could draw a table where we have our x coordinates and our y coordinates. And we could start at minus 1, 0, 1, 2. And then for each value of x, I'm going to substitute in. So we know that y equals minus 2 lots of our x plus 4. So for the first value, I'm going to substitute in minus 1 here. So y equals minus 2 times minus 1, which is 2 plus 4, we're going to get 6. For my second value, when I have 0, I'm going to substitute in y equals minus 2 lots of 0 plus 4, which is 4. For my next value, y equals minus 2 lots of 1 plus 4, minus 2 plus 4 is 2. And you'll see we have a pattern emerging, is that each time we're actually going down in 2s. Now, the reason why that happens is because, in fact, our gradient is minus 2. So for every 1 we go across, we're going to go down 2. And our y-intercept is, in fact, 4, because that's when our x is 0, it crosses at 4, and for every 1 across, we're going to go down 2. So here we have, plot our points. We need to use a ruler to make sure that we have a nice straight line. There we go. And then now what we're going to do, it says show by shading on the grid the region defined by all three of the inequalities. Okay, so we've already drawn the line y equals minus 2x plus 4. It says that y is less than, so we want what's less than, we want below the line. So I'm going to shade the area outside the line because that's the part we do not want. So we don't want this part. The next one says y is greater than minus 4. So the line y is greater than minus 4 is here. And we want above the line because it's greater than. So I'm going to shade the part below the line. And then we have x is greater than 1. So my line x is greater than 1. Here is where x is 1. We want x is greater than 1. So I'm going to shade where it's less than 1 because that's what we don't want. And we're left with a nice triangle, and that is our region where we've satisfied all of the inequalities. Question 21. Solve 6x minus 5 over 2 equals x plus 1. So to start off with, I've got a fraction on the left-hand side, which I do not want. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I now get 6x minus 5 equals 2 lots of x plus 1. I'm going to expand my bracket. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is 2. 6x minus 5 stays the same on the left-hand side. I'm now going to minus 2x from both sides. 6x minus 2x is 4x. My minus 5 stays the same. 2x minus 2x is 0, and then I'm left with 2. I'm now going to add 5 to both sides. 4x minus 5 plus 5 is 0. 2 plus 5 is 7. And I'm going to divide both sides by 4 because I've got 4 lots of x and I just want 1. 4x divided by 4 is just x, and 7 over 4. I can leave a 7 over 4. Or I could write 1.75. They are exactly the same. The value of a boat depreciates by 16% each year. At the end of 2012, the value of the boat is 650,000. Work out the value of the boat at the end of 2015. So we've gone from 2012 to 2015, that's 3 years. If a boat depreciates by 16%, we have a decrease of 16%. So if we had 100% and I'm minusing 16%, I am left with 84%. So I want to find 84% of that number. Now, 84% as a decimal, we know as a multiplier is 0.84. So using our formula, we have our initial value, 650,000, multiplied by our multiplier of what we're trying to find, a decrease of 16%, to the power of how many years. So I'm going to get 650,000 multiplied by 0.84 to the power of 3, which is 385,257.6. Now, because we are working with money, we're going to have 385,257.60. Okay, Li Huan, I think it's Li Huan's salary is 180,000 Hong Kong dollars. She gets a salary increase of 3%. Okay, so if we have our 100 and we're increasing by 3%, we now have 103%. As a decimal, that's 1.03, so that's our multiplier. So we're going to do 180,000 multiplied by 1.03 0, 3, which is 185,400. Okay, perfect. In a sale, all normal prices are reduced by 15%. The sale price of a camera is 6,630. Work out the normal price. So we know we have a normal price and we've multiplied that by our multiplier. Now we know if we had 100% and we take away 15%, we're left with 85%. So we know it's an 85% of the amount, which as our multiplier is 0.85. So our original amount, if we multiplied that by 0.85, we would get 6,630. So to find our original amount, I need to divide both sides by 0.85. So our original amount is going to equal 6,630 divided by 0.85, which is 7,800 Hong Kong dollars. Question 24. The shaded shape is made up by cutting a semicircle from a rectangular piece of card. It's given as the lengths of AF, BC, AB, FE, and DC, which are all drawn on. Work out the perimeter of the shaded shape. Okay, so when I'm working out the perimeter, step 1, let's go around the whole outside of the shape. So here we have 4, check. Here we have 10. This line is 20. This line is also 10 because it is a rectangle. And this line is 4. Okay, perfect. So we've got some of the perimeter. The only part of the perimeter we don't have is this part here. Now we can work this out by finding the circumference of the circle. Now we know circumference is pi times diameter, but because we have a semicircle, we need to divide it by 2. Now, we now need to figure out the diameter. So we know this whole length is 20, but I've got 4 and 4. So if I take away 2 lots of 4, I'm left with 12. So my diameter is in fact 12 because 4 plus 12 is 16 plus 4 is 20, which makes sense. So my diameter is 12, so I'm going to get plus pi times my diameter of 12 divided by 2. So now I'm going to have 48 plus pi times 12 over 2. I'm going to put that into my calculator because it wants the answer in significant figures. So 48 plus shift pi times 12 divided by 2 equals 66.849. It wants 3 significant figures. My first significant figure is tens, my second significant figure is units, my third significant figure is tenths, or 1 decimal place. So in this case, we want to round to 1 decimal place or to the nearest tenth. When I look at this number here, this is not 5 or more, so I'm not rounding up, so I get 66.8 centimetres to 3 significant figures. Question 25. The diagram shows a shape made from triangle ABC and a semicircle with a diameter BC. The triangle ABC is a right angle at B, AB equals 7.6 and AC equals 9.5. Calculate the area of the shape, give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, so we have 2 shapes. We have a right angled triangle, which we know the area is base times height. And we have a semicircle, so we know the area is pi r squared, but because it's a semicircle, we need to divide it by 2. Now, I have my base, which is 7.6. I do not have a height yet, so I need to find that. And because I do not have the height, this height is actually the same here, but we know if we half it, we're going to get the radius. So I need to figure out the height to then find the radius. Now, what I can see here is I have a right angled triangle. I have two sides and a missing side. So I'm going to be using Pythagoras. So I know this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C, because my C is always directly opposite my right angle, which is the hypotenuse. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 7.6 squared plus B squared equals 9.5 squared. So to find B on its own, I know that B squared, if I take away 7.6 from both sides, is 9.5 squared minus 7.6 squared. So I'm going to put that into my calculator. So 9.5 squared minus 7.6 squared equals 32.49. So my B squared equals 32.49. To find B, I need to square root 32.49, so root 32.49, which is 5.7. So my B is in fact 5.7. So I now know my height is 5.7. My radius is half of my height, so 5.7 divided by 2 is 2.85. So now I know for my triangle, I've got base times height divided by 2, plus the area of my semicircle, which is pi r squared over 2. I'm now going to fill in the numbers of what I know. So here we go. 7.6 times 5.7, because that's my base and my height, divided by 2, plus pi times my r, which is 2.85 squared, divided by 2. I'm now going to put that into my calculator. So my answer is going to be 34.4187. Round to three significant figures. My first significant figure is tens, units, tenths. So I'm going to round to the nearest tenth or to one decimal place. 34.4 centimetres squared. Perfect. So we have now reached the end of the paper. I hope that you found this video useful. Remember, if there's certain topics that you haven't seen before, please check out my other videos on YouTube, which will explain this more in depth. For example, the Pythagoras, rounding, finding the area, anything that you think, oh, I'm not sure about that, because I've just tried to run through it as quickly as possible, thinking that you would know and understand some of the topics. If there are topics you don't understand, please go look at the individual topic ones.